Joining us now is Bishop Robert Deeley of the Archdiocese of Boston. He's going to update us on what's going on in the Archdiocese. And before we even begin, this is your first time back here since you become a bishop. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much.
It was great having it on Catholic TV. We've watched the whole thing.
And they watched it in Rome, and they watched it in Ireland, and you're all around the world. Catholic TV is everywhere.
Can I tell you, the internet, when we put it up on our YouTube page, one of the most watched things. A lot of people liked it.
You know, my cousins in Ireland now are watching Catholic TV because they got the connection through through watching the ordination and the announcement, which you also did, and so now they're watching Catholic TV.
They're part of the family.
They're part of the
His
family.
PR for us now. The bishop is all.
I was over there in April to see the family in Ireland, and they told me that they're fascinated by some of the programs and some of the things that they see, and they watch you. So
well, hello to Ireland.
That's
hello
it.
To Ireland. Well, you've been actively engaged with Father Soper and Sister Pat Boyle, who's wonderful, with the introduction of the pastoral plan. How does it feel to have phase one solidly underway?
Well, even though it isn't starting, you're very good to say it's solidly underway, because it is. It will start on Sunday or Tuesday, next Tuesday. The pastors will be moving into their new assignments next Tuesday, and therefore it is launched. But the pastors, even as we speak, those pastors are in the second week of their 2-week training for becoming pastors of collaboratives. They'll be at the Pastoral Center for 4 days this week to do that. I feel very good about the direction that we're going in, the trajectory of the planning process, and the enthusiasm that is there for this process. It's been a very, very good thing for the Archdiocese, and I'm very confident and hopeful that we are going to see some great things from this disciples and mission process.
Now, it's a huge project, of course, putting parishes together into collaboratives and coming with a plan to do that makes sense. But that's not altogether unique. But what is unique, I think, is the fact that this is for the purpose of the mission of the church, for evangelization. Could you tell us about how you're putting these two very important, huge pieces together?
I think that you're right, and it is a major effort. Now, when I was in Ireland last month, in a couple of different places where I was visiting different cousins, they pretty much have the same problem we have with putting not having enough priests to go to the parishes. So my mother's parish, for example, where I said Mass, the priest is only going to be there till July, and then it will become part of a 4-parish. Well, it's not really a collaborative, because the pastor will just move from place to place. And another place that I visited, the same thing was the case. There had been 3 pastors there 5 years ago when I was there, and now there's only 1 for the 3 parishes. That was down in County Clare. So I think the idea of putting parishes together into some kind of format is being done in many, many places. And you are right, the evangelization piece is the piece that makes us different, because we're doing this not just as an administrative matter of putting places together, but rather to move us from maintenance of places, which is what that would be, to mission, to what are we about, what is it that we are supposed to be doing as church, and how can we share the good news of the gospel with those who have stopped coming and worshiping with us. And the way that we do that is by exactly moving from maintenance to mission, by putting our resources together, and by focusing on what is the best way in which the energy of the pastor and the other members of the administrative team can contribute to the mission. We can, through an economy of scale and everything else, have those people spend more time doing that work of connecting people so that they might hear about the good news of the gospel. Because in fact, the bottom line is that evangelization, new or old, is about you and I and everyone else in the church talking about what a difference Jesus makes to my life.
Yeah, sure.
Well, a very logical question for viewers is, how can we help support this process? So how can we help this?
Well, the project is a very well thought out, very carefully planned process. The Planning Commission went through 2 years of planning. And one of the things that they said in the report, Disciples in Mission, is that we had to really work on the culture within which we did what we are doing in church. And so they highly recommended training. Training's expensive. Training is not something that we can necessarily have the resources for right here in our own midst. So we had to bring people in from outside. We have some of the resources for the training here. I just told you that the pastors themselves are having 8 days of training to get ready for this. The Pastoral Center had 8 days of training so that we could be supportive of the mission. That's expensive, and we really depend upon the Catholic appeal and the goodness of the people of the Archdiocese who help in that to move this process forward. So we need prayers, we need support, we need people to think about the way in which they bring the gospel to others. That can be as simple as a smile, and it can be as elaborate as volunteering in the parish and helping to do some task in the parish so that the work of the administration is a little bit lessened, and it can be, and it is the support for the Catholic appeal, which is the main way in which pastoral planning and all of the other endeavors of the Archdiocese move forward.
So important, I think, for people in our parishes to realize that we need to support our local parish, but we also need to support the Archdiocese, because that training wouldn't be possible. I think to the ordination on Saturday, the work of the vocations office, the work of the seminaries that brought those men to that day, the work of supporting our priests, none of that would be possible without the appeal.
You're absolutely correct, Father Reed. It is, and people don't think of it that way. I mean, but it is true that the parishes are supported by the Archdiocese, and we, with all of the things that we're doing, we are trying very hard to bring the two together, to work harder to give the support to the pastors and the administrative staffs that they need so that they can be stronger.
And the men who are chosen to be pastors of these parishes, they're good guys, and a couple of the newly ordained, they're going to be going to these collaboratives too, which is good because the priestly leadership is going to be important to this process as well.
That's true. That's very true. In choosing people for these collaboratives, particularly for the pastors, we wanted to choose people who had been well experienced in working collaboratively in their parishes and in their institutions. And we have some wonderful pastors in our diocese, and we're going to be moving into phase 2 in September. We're going to start the announcement of who those of the phase 2 parishes in September. We have great pastors. We've started out with some men who were available, who were very, very good, and we look forward to starting with more come next year.
Well, we would be remiss if, as we talk about building the church and how wonderful this is as a bishop now, you have something that you do, which is traveling to parishes, and you help celebrate the sacrament of confirmation. How is that?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I travel to parishes for many reasons, and confirmation is one of them. The vibrancy and the life in our parishes where I go is always exciting. It's always energizing. It's always hopeful. It's always a sign of the way in which the Spirit of God is alive and well in our Archdiocese. And as we live in this period post-Pentecost, we need to remind ourselves of that the Spirit of God is very much alive in our church and in the people of the church, and all of those ways inspire me and lift me up in my ministry to know that God's work is being done.
I can imagine. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that we have a couple new guys going over as seminarians to the Pontifical North American College in Rome this year. One ordained just on Saturday, one coming home, just all kinds of activity back and forth.
That is true, and we are very blessed in that the resources of that seminary, which trains men in a special way that we might want to use in various ways in the future, but they're all good men. But let me remind you that we have good men at Pope John, at St. John's, and at the Redemptoris Mater Seminary as well.
Good. I'm glad you said it because I was getting ready to leave. It was going to become the whole NAC thing going on here. I know how you.
However,
feel.
those other seminaries don't have a bowl of pasta every day, which does make them a little bit less.
Or a championship soccer team.
That's right.
Or a
That's right.
championship
America's
soccer team.
Cup
Soccer team,
again.
the America's Cup again.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to find out what's going on in the news with Kevin Nelson. We'll be right back after this.